Sunday Morning Futures has obtained emails between Hunter and Joe's brother, Jim Biden's partners, indicating what we believe to be the beginning of the partnership. Back in 2016, while Joe Biden was still vice president, of Chinese energy company CEFC and the Biden Group. That group includes Rob Walker, James Gilliard, Tony Bobulinski, and Jim and Hunter Biden. In this email, we want to show you Hunter answers yes to what appears to be the terms of a partnership with CEFC. Hunter's former partner, Tony Bobulinski, told me the agreement was for CEFC to pay the Biden family for helping the company do deals across the world. And here is the infamous big guy email, which shows a negotiation of who gets what in the deal, including 10% equity held by H for the big guy. President Biden this week called Putin's nuclear threats the closest to Armageddon since 1962. But back in September of 2017, CEFC was in a deal to acquire a 14% stake in Russian oil company Rosneft. This, the same company that was to be paying the Biden clan. And this new email emerges this week, identified from Hunter's laptop and exposed by Congressman Darrell Issa. It shows James Biden making overtures to the Qatari royal family, which reads in part, "My family would provide a wealth of introductions and business opportunities at the highest levels." So will these upcoming federal charges be a slap on the wrist for Hunter Biden, or will we see accountability for what certainly appears to be years of influence peddling from the Biden family? Joining me right now, the man who will likely soon have the subpoena power as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, should the GOP take the majority after the midterms, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, now the ranking member of Judiciary. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning.
You bet, Maria. Good to be
What
with
are
you.
your plans in terms of subpoena power? Who will you subpoena, and will you be investigating this?
Yeah, I think the Hunter Biden story will primarily be done out of the Oversight Committee if in fact the American people put us in the majority, it will be done under the leadership of then Chairman Comer in the Oversight Committee. But yeah, we need to do this. I think the real question is, though, is what's the FBI really going to do? I mean, the American people have common sense. They see the facts. They see that there was a laptop, there was the eyewitness, there was the emails, there are all these suspicious activity reports. There's now this email that Congressman Issa has brought forward. So the facts are already there. The real question is, will the FBI hold people accountable? I mean, I got my doubts, and frankly, I'll believe it when I see it, because this is the FBI where we've now had 14 agents come to us as whistleblowers and tell us how political it's gotten. This is the FBI that raided the home of a former president, took the phone of a sitting member of Congress. This is the FBI who kicked in the door of a pro-life leader 2 weeks ago outside of Philadelphia and arrested him in front of his wife and 7 children for something local law enforcement said was not a crime, not a problem. So this is how political this FBI has become. And I think a key point to remember, too, Maria, is this is the FBI who's involved themselves in every single election for the last 4 cycles. This is a point Congressman Gates made in committee a few weeks ago. In 2016, they spied on President Trump's campaign. In 2018, it was the Mueller investigation. In 2020, they suppressed information about the Hunter Biden laptop. And now in 2020, they've raided the home of the former president, taken the phone of a sitting member of Congress 91 days before an election. So when is the FBI not going to involve themselves in one of our elections? That's probably a key question. So that to me is the real concern. We're going to do everything we can to hold these folks accountable. And if we have the majority, bring them in front of Congress, do the depositions that need to be done so we can get the facts.
So in other words, you'll subpoena Christopher Wray?
Well, I think there's key people. Let's use the school board example. We know that the School Board Association last fall was communicating with the White House, the Justice Department, and the Department of Education before they ever sent the letter that said, let's use counterterrorism measures against moms and dads. We want to know who they were talking to. We'd like to know, were there folks at the White House who said, oh, in that letter you're going to send to us as a pretext for us to send this memorandum, in that letter, go ahead and put the language about the Patriot Act and using counterterrorism measures against parents. Did the White House suggest that language go in there? Did they tell them to put it in? I mean, those are key questions we need to get. So yeah, there's all kinds of folks we need to bring in for depositions, and then hopefully including all the way up to the FBI director himself.
Well, this is all very concerning, particularly now, because now, I mean, nobody wants to talk about the commander-in-chief being compromised. But now we're in a moment in time where we have these adversaries attacking or trying to overtake America. And you've got a war on Ukraine. Hunter Biden was on the board of Burisma, making millions of dollars overall.
Yeah.
Then you've got Russia. And its provocations, killing people, death and destruction in Ukraine. We know that the mayor of Moscow's wife wired a $3.5 million check to Hunter Biden's group. And, of course, the Chinese officials, the Johnson Grassley released a report on the conflicts of interest investigation. They've identified money taken in from Chinese officials. So how can we trust that the decisions that this president makes in such important situations, like the ones I've just mentioned, is not because of money or, owing these officials something?
Yeah, it's scary. You stop and think about it because like you say, Maria, it's not just any countries. It's Ukraine, Russia, and China. I mean, those were the countries that Hunter Biden did these business dealings with. It's frightening stuff. And I think, again, it underscores why it's so important to get to the bottom of it. I do think it's important, and this is where I think Congressman Comer wants to focus the investigation, and that is on these 150 suspicious activity reports. Most people never get any, but you got this one family, happens to be a pretty darn important family in our country, has 150. So I think that's where you'll see the focus of the investigation if, in fact, in 1 month time, the American people put us in the majority.
So the Federalist is out with a report this week. They say the first thing that Republicans should do when they take back Congress is impeach Merrick Garland. What are your plans for Merrick Garland?
Well, they're right that we have to look real closely at the Justice Department, and I think we may have to do some major changes. There may need to be structural changes at the FBI. I mean, you may need the Washington field office has way too much power. You may need to disperse power around. There needs to be process changes. One of the things that happens is the FBI goes and interviews someone. When they interviewed Mike Flynn, they do a 302 and write things down, and then they prosecuted Michael Flynn. We actually think maybe those interviews there should be an audio tape of that so we can actually get the facts and know what took place, because we know they went to set up Michael Flynn back in the early days of the Trump administration. So maybe we need to deal with their funding, and certainly we need to make changes to the FISA process. I think we should not even reauthorize FISA, which is going to come up in the next Congress. So those are key things we got to look at. That's all part of what needs to happen. And then there's also the impeachment question, which I think the committee will look at. That'll be a decision for the entire conference under then Speaker McCarthy.
Congressman, the Republican National Committee is also saying that Google suppressed 22 million plus GOP emails since September. I spoke with Ronna McDaniel the other day, and she says all of your emails that are just get out the vote emails are going to spam, and it's because of an algorithm Google created. What is the media's role here?
Well, it certainly doesn't surprise me. I mean, I was one of 4 members of Congress who Twitter shadow banned a few years ago. Congressman Meadows and Gates and Nunes and myself back in the middle of the whole Mueller investigation. So we know what it's like for big tech when they come after us. Why it's so important. If we get the majority, we hold big tech accountable, get rid of Section 230 and do things that are, I think, really important to stop this censorship of conservative thought. But yeah, this doesn't surprise me. Remember, this is the same big tech in the election in the days before the election in 2020, where the FBI, big government, working in conjunction with big tech, suppresses information that we, the people, needed to have in just the days and weeks before the most important election, a presidential election, when the FBI went to Facebook and said, hey, you may not want to be covering this information because this is, quote, Russian disinformation, this whole Hunter Biden story, when in fact it wasn't. So that is a real concern, what big tech's doing. But I'm even more concerned about the connectedness between big government and big tech and how they're working together to go after conservatives and Republicans. And this is just another example of that.
It's all extraordinary, Congressman, and we are going to be following it. Thanks very much for weighing in on all of that this morning.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.